There are very few games I would consider the best of the best. Here are 5. Mario Wonder came out of nowhere. I still can't believe we got this game so late in the Switch's life. After the new series of games, I thought Nintendo was unable or unwilling to take any creative liberties with 2D Mario. Not that the new games are bad, I actually really like them. They just don't seem to have been made with timelessness in mind. It feels like Nintendo made a list of things they couldn't do to make sure Mario didn't stray too far from that image they had created for him. With Wonder, it's the exact opposite. They went far and away from those boundaries, and the game has benefited greatly for it. This release has made me regain all faith in Nintendo's creative decisions. I've been completely taken with Wonder. The first trailer took me by surprise. I really didn't think we were going to get any sort of mainline Mario game 6 years into the Switch's life. That's normally when consoles are on their last leg. After that trailer, I purposely didn't watch any others just so I could discover things firsthand while playing it. I'm so glad I did, because this game is full of wacky, off-the-wall moments. This has to be right up there with one of the best Mario games ever made. It's surprising it doesn't take place in the Mushroom Kingdom. Instead, you run around the Flower Kingdom. That little change adds to this game's personality. The overworld is similar in style to Mario 3D World, where you run around freely between each stage. This game is bursting with character. I love the talking flowers. The things they would say were so fun. But what I liked most about them is that I could change the language from English to Japanese. That change elevated the game to a whole new height. Each stage in this game has a Wonder Flower that flips the whole level on its head. I couldn't wait to see what was going to happen in each one of them. I especially loved when the world would turn into an overhead top-down view, kind of like a Zelda game. Though the best and biggest change to this game compared to the past 2D games has nothing to do with the level or world design. It's the lack of a timer. I despise the stage timer. It only makes me want to speedrun through all the levels. Without it, I explore and freely enjoy all the details. I can take a deep breath and know I'm not going to be penalized for wanting to look around at all the hard work that the developers put into it. It's my favorite part of Wonder. I love the Donkey Kong Country games, and a lot of that love is because I never felt rushed to finish the stages. If I want to sit and listen to the music or watch whatever's happening in the background, I like that I can do that. It's about time that a mainline 2D Mario game has this freedom. Whether you're running around as an elephant or jumping off a ton of bulls that have just jumped themselves, this game had me gripped and ready for whatever surprise was in the next level. I consider Wonder to be top tier, but it's not perfect. Having to fight Bowser Jr. over and over wasn't all that inspired. I didn't hate it, but it would have been fun to fight a new boss or some sort of throwback. Something other than Bowser Jr. But overall, this game is a joy to play, and I plan on playing through it over and over again in the coming years. It's an excellent game that came out at a perfect time. Breath of the Wild is incredible. It's right up there with my favorite games of all time. I think about it often. I've played through it many times since it released in 2017. The game really connected with me. That early time period when the Switch launch was kind of magical. Everyone was experiencing it and Breath of the Wild at the same time, since it was one of the only games available to play. It was amazing discovering things with a large number of other players. That time really was something special. When Nintendo announced that they were making a sequel to it, saying I was excited would have been understating how I felt. I knew it was going to be good. There's no way it wouldn't be. After watching the first trailer once, I again decided not to watch any more of them. It was difficult, but in the end it paid off. Giving this version of Hyrule another go was a dream come true. I couldn't wait to run around that world again and see what had been changed and what they had added. The addition of the caves came as a complete surprise. I love stumbling on them. Even now I get excited when I enter one that I've never seen before. But the caves weren't the only surprise. I wasn't aware that the sky area was so vast. I thought you would have to go there at times to progress the story, but it's a major part of the game. You even start in the sky. I love going up there. Diving down to lower Hyrule still gives me a thrill. I especially like the low gravity areas. Jumping higher and hanging in the air has such a unique feeling. I never thought it would be implemented in a Zelda game. It's really fun jumping around those environments. Sometimes I just hang out up there and jump around for a while. I also had no idea the depths were a thing. I was surprised to hear after playing it for a while that people don't like being down there. Some people say it's bland and all the same. I think the depths are unbelievably fun. There were times I traversed down there during my whole play sessions. I love how dark it is. It makes it mysterious and interesting. At least it felt that way for me. Shooting arrows with bright bloom seeds to light the way was very memorable. All 3 areas blew me away. Even now, I could spend hours in any of them and have the time of my life. This game is simply amazing. Though there is one thing I wasn't too keen on for a while: the crafting. It's what kept me from finishing the game until recently. The whole game is centered around it. I needed to shift the way I thought about that world because of it. It's amazing how well it's implemented and what can be done. You have complete freedom to do whatever you want. I'm amazed at how well it works, but I still find myself missing the simple things like elemental swords and arrows. The simplicity of having them already assembled when you grab them made me focus more on playing the game instead of always gearing up to play it, if that makes sense. I know the vast majority of people love this about Tears of the Kingdom, and I understand why. The possibilities of what you can create are endless, but for me, it took some getting used to. I think I prefer having things like bombs always available like they were on Breath of the Wild. I'm also not very wild about some of the Korok puzzles. When I come across one that needs help getting to its friend, I just groan. My nature is to do these puzzles. I have a really hard time passing them up, so I know I'll be spending some extra time figuring it out. Most aren't all that bad, but sometimes I'm doing one that takes forever. It made me miss those times in Breath of the Wild where all I had to do was lift a rock. That's still in Tears of the Kingdom, but I know it's not always going to be that simple. All in all, I love this game. This version of Hyrule is my favorite. I could run around doing nothing and still have fun seeing what the world has to offer. Having two versions of it makes me extremely happy. I might be a little redundant, but I love Breath of the Wild, and this is more of it. It's amazing. Some call it a glorified DLC, but I don't see it that way. Even if it was, I would have enjoyed it anyway. It's a great game that stands on its own. I hadn't touched a Metroid Prime game until I played the remastered version. I had heard for years that they were great and worth playing. Everyone seemed to have played them, but I just wasn't interested enough to play them on the Wii or the GameCube. My focus always seemed to be on something else. That also applies to every other Metroid game. It wasn't until the release of Dread that I finally got around to playing all the 2D Metroid games. I'll never forget how fun it was playing them one by one in sequence. Ever since then, I've wanted to jump into the Prime series. As luck would have it, we got Metroid Prime Remastered on the Switch. I bought it the day it came out and I got right into it. It's unbelievably good. I can't believe I let this series pass me by for so long. I got fully immersed into the world. The visuals are some of the best on the Switch. Each section drew me in on how it was designed. The music is also top tier. Every Metroid game I've played has had great music. This one is no exception. I loved entering new areas just to see what it would look like and what music it would have. Controlling Samus in first-person mode felt completely natural. I didn't think it would have translated so well from the 2D games, but I was wrong. I had no problem with the perspective. Platforming felt natural. Everything still feels like a Metroid game, and that's what I love most about it. All the things that make a Metroid game are here. You regularly acquire suit and weapon upgrades, which makes getting around the world easier and more fun. Abilities are also found like the Spider Ball. This game was a joy to play, but there are a few things that kinda bugged me. First, the doors having to be opened with a specific beam gets really old. Unlike the 2D games where you unlock the doors with a specific beam, missile, or bomb for the first time, switch to regular doors you can shoot with whatever beam or missile you want to open them. Prime makes you swap to a specific beam or missile type every time you backtrack through every door. It gets tedious. I found myself really getting annoyed by it. Also, there are a ton of half-pipe sections throughout the map. This isn't much of a gripe, but having to stop to do the roll boost over and over just to get high enough to access the next part or find something new slows the game down to a crawl. Even with these two things, the game is exceptional. There are very few games that stick with me long after I play them. The Metroid games have all stuck with me. Prime Remastered is no different. I would gladly play any of them any day at any time. Just talking about this game makes me want to jump right back into it. If by some chance you are like me and have been pushing this game off to the side, I highly recommend giving it a go. It might be one of the best decisions you'll ever make. Lightfall is a game that took me by complete surprise. I've already talked about it a few times in the past. It seems like I can't shut up about it. I think it's because I've never run into anyone who's played it. Even after I've gone on and on about how good it is, people still haven't given it a chance. I even made a whole video dedicated to it years ago. It's the worst performing video I've ever made, and that's a real shame, because this game deserves so much more. I'm not saying it's the greatest game of all time, but it is much better than the vast amount of other games out there. I'm not a person who spends their time trying out all the new first-party titles, let alone the endless sea of indie games available. This indie game, however, is up there as one of the very best games on the Switch. It can be played on Steam as well, but the Switch is the only place I've ever played it. It's unbelievably good. What Lightfall really nails are the visuals and controls. Every stage is beaming with beauty. I love just looking around all the details. I can tell there was significant thought put into the art direction. As I recently played through it, I couldn't wait to replay each stage and see what it looked like. Rediscovering what I had forgotten was extremely memorable. The visuals are stunning. The foreground is cast in shadows, which creates beautiful silhouettes. The backgrounds are also made up of layers and layers of silhouettes. The light sources in each stage are often the most detailed portions of the graphics. The lighting blended with fog and particles creates the mood and atmosphere for each level, much like Limbo, Inside It, and the silhouette levels from the newer Donkey Kong Country games. The game did not disappoint on how it looks. I'm amazed at how well the controls feel. They are incredibly responsive, which makes it fun to play. I think this is probably the best part of it. Not only are they fluid and easy to control, they are ultra responsive, which is huge for a platformer. The character is floaty, but I appreciate the extra time to think as the camera is pulled back quite far, making him very small on the screen. I don't think I ever blamed Lightfall for an accidental death. I hold the original Donkey Kong Country games as the standard for platformer controls, and the way they feel is just about as good as it gets. This game is right up there with DKC. Lightfall does something new and different. I've never seen anything like what they've implemented in this game. The main character has the ability to control a block called the Shadow Core, which he can summon from thin air to create platforms to get to higher areas. When you jump, with another press of the jump button, a block will appear underneath the character. You can do this for 4 successive jumps. You also control the block to deflect beams, control a boat, operate machinery, create platforms from sparkles in the air, and throw a projectile. This new mechanic is a game changer. I had so much fun running through the levels creating platforms to get to different areas. I also tried to get as high as I could and jump down. The game also introduces sections of the game to take away your powers and make you play as if it were an ordinary platformer. Except this platforming is pretty challenging if it's compared to something like Mario. I had to play a few sections multiple times to make it through. I didn't feel like this was a chore. I look forward to replaying those parts. The overwhelming feeling I got when I passed them was worth the extra effort. There are 2 main characters, the character you control and a wise old owl. The character models are very simple. Small, silhouetted figures with bright white lit up eyes. If you dabbled in the Legend of Zelda series, specifically Ocarina of Time and Link's Awakening, you'll be used to frequent visits from wise old owls. This version of the owl is the narrator, so he'll be there for the entirety of the game. I enjoyed his narrations and commentary. Eventually I gained a camaraderie with the owl. I felt like we had to take on this fight together, that we were the only ones that could get through it. Lightfall is a game that shines like a gem in the shadow of massive giants. It's a shorter experience that's packed with memorable sequences, perfect platforming, and gorgeous visuals. The new Shadow Core mechanic adds a fresh spin on the dusty platforming genre. It's a fantastic game that deserves your time. Super Mario 3D World is one of my favorite games on the Wii U. It was such a surprise seeing a sequel for a 3DS game on the Wii U. It didn't disappoint either. Cat Mario was right up there with Raccoon Mario for me. When Nintendo decided to bring the best Wii U games to the Switch, I hoped this one would make it over. Almost all the other great Wii U games had made the jump. It was kind of the odd man out, but we finally got it. It looks and sounds pretty much the same as the previous version, which isn't a bad thing. Super Mario 3D World is a great game, and it's one I remember quite fondly. I've always been a fan of games that skirt the line between 2D and 3D perspectives. This isn't just a simple port of the original Wii U game, this version is better. There are a few changes that really change how this game plays and feels. The first thing I noticed was the running speed. The characters are way faster in this version. They also reach the second speed much quicker than the original Wii U game. I'd much rather play this quicker version. I used to find myself running in circles on the Wii U to reach that top speed. You also don't have to interact with your controller to do some of the required specific actions, like in Puff Rod Peaks. You used to have to blow on the gamepad to move these platforms. This would be picked up by the microphone to move the platforms and blow away these tiny Goombas, which I actually kinda liked. But on the Switch version, they've been relegated to normal platforms that move on their own. It's a tiny change, one that takes a little bit of this game's character away, but it also makes it more accessible. You don't need a break from the traditional gameplay to do something out of the box. But those aren't the only reasons why this version is better. They went all out and made a whole new addition to it. That's Bowser's Fury. Unlike 3D World, this game is more like a traditional 3D Mario game. It's wide open and allows you to move around without the narrow paths that are in 3D World, something closer to Mario Odyssey than New Super Mario Bros. U. Yet it doesn't feel like Mario Odyssey, as the controls and movesets are the same as in 3D World. The biggest difference from the core game is the lack of a timer. The only thing I don't like about Super Mario 3D World is the timer. Yeah, I'm bringing it up again. If only they had excluded it for the Switch release. Thank heavens Wonder doesn't have it. I like to explore the games I play, and the timer really puts a damper on the fun exploration. When Bowser's Fury was first announced, I thought it was going to be something that would be around an hour, and consist of very minimal things to do, but it kept going. I had a great time just running around. I liked that the art style and assets remained the same as what they are in the core 3D World game. This new adventure has Mario stumbling on some sort of ominous, dark, oily substance. This substance opens and takes Mario to a place called Lake Lapcav. This place is dark and dreary with a storm raging. But the storm isn't the worst of Mario's problems, because the biggest thorn in his side is about to get even bigger. Once you reach the top of the nearby ship, lightning strikes and illuminates Bowser. But this time, he's huge. As you try to figure out what's going on, Bowser is dropping projectiles and lava from the sky. He's also spitting out a powerful column of fire. Once that fire hits certain blocks, you grab the main collectible in the game, the Cat Shine. This Cat Shine activates the light tower and drives Bowser away. I guess he doesn't like lights. Once Bowser goes away, the weather clears up and new islands appear in the world. Mario crosses paths with Bowser Jr., who explains that he's never asked Mario for help, but needs his help now to save his dad and return to normal. Then they team up and go around collecting Cat Shines. It's fun seeing Bowser Jr. help Mario. The whole goal of this game is to collect the Cat Shines that remove the goo from the lighthouses. When they shine their light, this opens up new areas. During the game, occasional storms will roll in and gigantic Bowser will show up to wreak havoc. When Mario and Bowser Jr. collect a certain amount of Cat Shines, a new power-up called the Giga Ball unlocks and allows Mario to grow huge. This is when the epic showdowns happen. It's really fun fighting enormous Bowser as a giant version of Cat Mario. These dark and moody sections are a welcomed addition that I really enjoyed playing through. I hope we see more of them in future Mario games. This was a great add-on to an already great game. I'm really happy we were given something new with this version of Super Mario 3D World. This is a game I always feel good after I play it. With the changes and the addition of Bowser's Fury, this Switch version is a must-play. The Switch has so many great games to play. These are 5 that I absolutely love.